Okay, guys, let's take a look at Katie's face for a second. Do you all see her very carefully? Pretty nice, right? Look at Katie. Beautiful, right? We're gonna make her look not beautiful by changing the angle we photograph her at. Okay? We're also gonna make her look really beautiful by altering the angle just a tad according to her face and bone structure. Does that make sense? So, Katie, go ahead and take a seat. I don't know where you want, but there's seats right there if you want. Yeah, now my friend Tyson's a good looking man, right? We're gonna make him look very unattractive really fast. You'll see how. Yay! How are you guys doing? Good. Okay. Let me show you what's gonna happen. Does she look pretty? She's nice, right? It's a nice photograph of her. She had just given birth about 2 or 3 months before this picture was taken, and she still had a lot of like that baby fat coming out, fat from the baby or whatever. And she was trying to postpone the photo shoot for 5 months afterwards because she wanted to look good and express her, be the best she could look, the best she could be. I told her, like I saw her, we were doing Skype. She flew me from Arizona to shoot the wedding, to Arizona to shoot this photograph. I said, I can see your face right now. I know exactly how to photograph your body and everything. You don't have to worry about your face looking chubby because of the baby fat. She's like, no, let's postpone. I was like, no, we're not postponing. I practice at home. I'm ready to go. And she's like, whatever. So we flew out there. And she said when I got there that she had these magazine cutouts from, Victoria's Secret magazine cutouts. And the poses that she was using were not going to be good for her face structure. And I said to her, okay, you don't want to tell her a person, you don't have the face for that. She's a model, you're not. You don't say that. So I just said, okay, we'll take them. Do you mind if I make a few adjustments? She's like, yeah, but can we take it still like this? I was like, sure. I love it when people tell me what to do. I just love it. You know what I mean? So we took her first photograph, and that's my interpretation of a photo that without hiding her baby fat and all these different things. But then I changed the angle just ever so slightly, just to mess her up big time. And look what happens when you just don't look at the angle correctly of the face. This is all the execution part of the course. Look at the difference. It's a lot wider, isn't it?
Yeah.
She doesn't even look like the same person. Look at this again. That looks like a model from a Victoria's Secret catalog. This looks like I don't know what I'm doing. And it all has to do with lighting through direction. If you look at this execution chart, it says right there, lighting through directions, and it says beauty through angles and perspective through lenses. All those 3 things have to happen to create that and make it look like this. Here's another one of those. This is the magazine shot she wanted to take. Not a good idea. When I saw that whole hair being pulled out and how the light would hit her, I said, this is not gonna be good for you. But let's take the photo anyway, because she wanted it. Then I asked her if we can just adjust the perspective through lens, the lighting through direction, and the beauty through angles. And she says, what are you gonna do? I wanna do it with a wall. And I said, no. Stay on the wall, but look at the bone structure that she has and make adjustments according to that bone structure with the angle that you shoot her from. Does that make sense? And how the light hits her. This is not lighting through direction. This is flat light in her face. If you photograph my good friend Katie here with flat light in her face, she's not gonna look very attractive. We'll totally try it right now. But then when we hide part of her face and we shoot her and we start angling the light and the angle of the lens, she's gonna look like, whoa, okay? So take a look at this. Now let's take a look at the adjustments done. Totally different person, right? I want you to try after this break to photograph Katie and Tyson, and I want you to purposely deconstruct the photo instead of build it. You're gonna crash it. Because by crashing it, your brain will remember what not to do a lot better than what to do. Does that make sense? How about this one? How does that look?
Same person?
No, different person.
Oh, okay.
Does that look great?
No.
No.
The light's kind of coming in flat, right, into her face. It's not looking too good. She has issues, right? Mm-hmm. Even though she's a beautiful person, this is not a good angle on her. So when people say, oh, Roberto, you take all these good photos because all your models and brides are so freaking beautiful. And I'm like, no. I make them look beautiful. Because this is what happens when you don't get the angle right, and this is what happens when you do get the angle right. Same person, 2 minutes later, same chair she was sitting in. Didn't even move the chair. I just moved the angle of the chair, and I moved myself, but that's the same person. Pretty crazy. Do we have any questions from the audience right now?
I guess one of the questions that came up was from Katie Yushka, and they were asking about taking multiple photos in a location. When you see like the best shot, the question is, would Roberto not take multiple shots in a location? Would he just stick to the best shot? Or are you looking for like tiered as far as good shots? Are you looking for the best shot and then the next best shot?
No,
like
I mean,
how far down do you go?
I mean, the photos we did yesterday of Kisha, the model yesterday, remember with a purple tree in the background? I showed 3 different models, right? 3 different angles of the same person, and they all looked very different. So instead of taking the best shot and then the next best and the next best, just take 3 really good ones. Just change the perspective and so forth. Perspective of where you stand makes a big difference in how you shoot. For example, can I borrow you, Katie, for a second? Most of us take our photographs from I'm 6 feet tall. So I take most of my photographs from a 6-foot perspective, right? So I'm photographing her this way. If she sees herself in my photo with this perspective, she'll be used to it. Even if she looks beautiful, she'll be used to it. It's the same type of look she has seen since she was 2 years old. Does that make sense? Everybody has always photographed her like this, like this, like this, like this, from the perspective of an adult looking into it. If you have her lean down and you photograph her from a down perspective or from a different perspective, you're gonna change the whole look altogether. Every time you photograph a building, it's gonna look like this. This is the perspective we all do. You stand in front of the building and you take a picture in front of it, and that's the building. Thank you, Katie. That's good. Right? That's the building. But look what happens here. To get people to have a shock value to your photos, change the perspective. Perspective in the execution chart. Take a look at this. This is the church. I was gonna photograph a wedding there the next day, and I saw a bunch of tourists taking the picture from the same perspective. So I always ask myself, what if I was a bird flying by? What would this look like? Or I ask myself, what if I was a little Chihuahua dog? Like if I was looking up from a 1-foot perspective, what would that look like, right? And this is what happens. This is the bird's perspective flying through. That looks more interesting. But look at the plants. You see the little plants right there? You see those little guys? Those guys are repetitions, right? Like they repeat themselves. And if I change my angle just a little bit, I can make them into leading lines. Look what happens. See how they're leading now? So now your eye goes right to the church, right? And now I have a much more interesting perspective that people are not used to seeing. This is the shock value that comes from offering your clients something that they're not used to. This is the final photograph I took in the same location. Now I'm not sure, I cannot say this for sure, but most likely, most wedding photographs that have been taken in front of this church were taken from the very first picture I took. And most likely they were just kissing, right? What's the saying? Kiss, hug, kiss, fountain. Kiss, hug, kiss, fountain. I see the fountain. Or you can also say kiss, hug, kiss, fountain, gazebo. That's the other popular one. Like, oh, gazebo, everybody. Right? Let's go to the gazebo. Oh, Pepe, no. No, Pepe.
We do have a couple more questions.
Okay.
And the first one is from Kelly with Just Stay. How many shots do you usually take in a session, and what percentage do you use? So curious with all of the practice that you've done.
At a job, like at a wedding, I don't photograph that much. I'm pretty selective when I push my shutter button. I for sure do not use the machine gun style of photography because you just cannot produce good work like that. I probably shoot about 700 to 900 photos per wedding, and that includes everything, reception, everything. And I probably give the bride somewhere between 300 and 500. And out of those 300, 298 are pretty darn good. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So when you have the album, it's not like every photo they flip through is like gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. That's gonna blow their mind. And I tell them in the initial client meeting to set the expectations right, because clients think the higher the number, the more value they're getting. So it's all about how you set them up, okay? I tell them, you're not getting quantity from me. You're just gonna get really great photographs from me. You're gonna get about 300, and they're all gonna be pretty darn good. And I even tell them, and you're not gonna like a lot of them too, because you're a person. I'm sure Katie has an angle that she likes more than another angle. And we can photograph her, and she can look beautiful, but Katie will be like, I hate this angle, and that I just can't stand it, right? So no matter what you give them, it's better to kind of keep it toned down. They see your work already. Keep the expectations toned down, and then blow them out of the water. You see what I mean? So yeah.
So a third, you give them a third of the shots that you take. You said you take 900.
Yeah, give them about a third to a half.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, next question is from LCP. How do you know the best angle according to face bone structure? What's the relation, and are there specific rules?
Of course, there's always. Looking at Katie right now, just everybody in the world takes a look at her really fast. Yay, Katie, you're being watched by a lot of people. You look at Katie's bone structure. Turn left real quick. You see how she's got a really sharp bone structure? In other words, using flat lighting or more broad lighting on her is going to make her face a little more round. Now, if you take light away from one side, it's going to start shaping her face. What you don't want to do with her is use sharp lighting techniques, because she already has a sharp face. So don't over sharpen it. Does that make sense? Whenever people show up with really defined jawlines and really refined, you can show that jawline, but you don't have to like make them look like sharp skeletons, right? If you have a Chinese person or someone who has like a broad, rounder face, don't broad light them. That's when you close the curtain and you sharp light them. You do the opposite. Look at his jawline right there. Look at the cheekbones, and I can see them even, they just like stand out. What I would give, by the way, to have a jawline like that. The problem is, I keep eating the wrong things, and I'm 35. And how old are you, man?
23.
See, when I was 23, I was like on fire too. So you just wait, brother. Right. You just wait. When I was 23, I was like a marathon runner, jawline, six-pack. Now it's like little chunkies and here already has a pretty sharp jawline, so you can light it up. You have more options, right? What you don't want to do is make the sharp bones look even sharper by cutting the light in the wrong places. She's got the same type of thing going on with the jaw, so we'll experiment.